Good afternoon, everybody. So today we have before us 3 experts in branded content who work in the branded content space. And the practice of making a series based on a toy or book is not new, but arguably consumer products companies like toy companies and publishers are more active in the entertainment space than ever before. Big toy companies like Hasbro and Mattel, who are here on the stage with us, along with other toy companies like Spin Master and Jakks Pacific, have really ramped up and formalized their entertainment divisions in recent years. Similarly, publishers like Random House Children's, Penguin, and Beano have followed suit. So these days, really, the question is not what comes first, the toy or the show, but more like what should come first in the development and launch of a 360-degree entertainment brand. The toy, the show, the webisode, the book, or the carefully seeded viral influencer campaign. Many would contend that a commercially successful property needs to reach all of these, needs to go on all of these platforms and probably more. In brand planning, it's become something as involved as plotting a major military campaign. I'm sure your brand launch schedules and calendars are insane, right? That said, we're not here to discuss all aspects of branding in their entirety, but to focus on the one piece of the puzzle, branded entertainment, and get a peek into the thinking of the people with the power to greenlight it. And with us today are Finn Arterson from Hasbro Studios, Christopher Keenan from Mattel Creations, and Chris Rose from Beano Studios. So to start, I think it would be really good to clarify what kind of commissioning it is that each of you do. For all 3 of you, I think your primary objective is really to mine the IP that your company already owns and figure out how to exploit it in various entertainment platforms. But you're also looking for new content to bring in. So Finn and Christopher, when it comes to making shows based on Hasbro or Mattel's existing IP or upcoming toys, you commission and produce those internally pretty much, right? And you don't really look for outside production partners. I mean, you have service studios that you work with, but it's not really a producers you're looking to come in as co-producers. So could you explain that a bit more?
So we kind of started the journey. I mean, you're obviously familiar with Hasbro, the toy company, and Hasbro brands. But so we started the journey in 2009-10. We set up a studio in LA, and it was kind of our first forage into actually saying we're going to make entertainment properties based on our existing IP, which makes sense. So we have our vault brands, as we call them, vault brands. I have this image of this massive, great big wheel that you turn and go into this vault.
You don't have one in there?
We actually don't, no, sorry. We started with, obviously, our popular brands, My Little Pony, Transformers, and the whole idea was to kind of reimagine those shows for a new audience. So we set up the studio in Los Angeles. It's kind of a virtual studio, to your point, Lana, because we don't actually produce anything there. So for the first few years, we basically took our 5 most successful properties, or what we thought was going to be successful, and we started the entertainment division. So we started the studio, and then we came on board, and we literally started doing development on those shows. What would these shows look like for a modern day audience across all genres, across all demographics? So we did My Little Pony, we did Transformers, yada yada, all those shows. And then it's really important that you know what you're developing for the right audience, make sure that's going to work on a global level, making sure you're working, to your point, with the brand teams who are actually the brand teams for those brands and the designers, the toy designers. You need your digital marketing people there. You need my distribution team to make sure it's going to be a global thing. So yes, we were internally focused for the first few years, building up that division. And again, if you think about it, Hasbro's been a toy company for like 50, 60 years. And we're literally at the start of the entertainment division. I think you're in the same position, Christopher. It's an amazing turnaround, or becoming part of that ecosystem that's been firmly established for all those years, to suddenly now have entertainment, creatives, this part of the industry that we work in. So we're wholly focused on making sure that we've done what we said we'd do. I think we've done that to an extent. We've been fairly successful. And now we're entering another chapter, but I think you want to talk about that later. So if that makes sense, that's where we started with those 5 brands, made them, developed them, processed them in-house, service studios all around the world for depending on what show, like Transformers we made with Polygon in Japan. It was a CG show. We worked with DHX in Canada with My Little Pony because it's a flash show and, they do well. So that's where we were, and we'll come back to original commissioning later.
Yes. So Christopher, it is also similar for you, but also just a little bit different in that you've got a fairly robust relationship with various online creators and crowdsourcing talent operations like Tongle. So maybe you want to talk a bit about sort of establishment of Mattel Creations, and then...
Sure. So not unlike Finn, Mattel, although Mattel has been participating in content production for a number of years with different properties and varying levels of success, it's really only been in the last couple of years, about a year and a half now, that Mattel Creations was set up. For those of you who were in the morning session I was in, I had described it, but it's basically an umbrella entity within the Mattel family that includes the content arm, which is development and production, distribution arm, which is global sales and distribution on all platforms, the insights group, which looks at both consumer insights and market research, as well as our digital group, which is not just digital marketing, but also digital production. And last but not least, our integrated marketing and media group. So all sitting under one umbrella, the new umbrella of Mattel Creations, is a new way of moving forward with IP for Mattel. But not unlike what Finn said, we initially were focused on what we call our core brands at Mattel. From an entertainment perspective, those have been Monster High and Barbie, Thomas and Friends, Fisher-Price, and American Girl. For those of you who don't know, American Girl and Hit Entertainment are both part of the Mattel family. So there's lots of opportunities for content production there, not specifically based off toy, but off corporately owned IP. That's one category. The second is, not unlike the vault that Finn described, Mattel, being a long-standing company, has a lot of IP in its library and rights or ownership of a lot of different kinds of intellectual properties, products, characters, or programs. So that's definitely sort of a secondary source for developing content. And then the third category is something I've been very, very vocal about, which is bringing new properties into the company and new creators, new characters. While I'm hoping Thomas will go on for another 70 years and that Barbie will live for another 50. There's no guarantees. So
plastic work is good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, now that she has her new body, hopefully she'll last for another decade or two. But I think the important thing is to remember that we are now moving away from being a plastics manufacturer and really being an experience company, or as we like to say internally, we focus on play, not on toy. So that's why we've been very encouraging of new creators, new IP, new ideas coming into the company. And I'm really pleased to announce we're going to be producing Cubetto, the series, as soon as we... No, I'm teasing. I'm totally teasing. I'm just incredibly inspired.
You just gave him a heart attack.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. No, I was very inspired. But I look at something like that, and I think there's opportunity for new ideas and relationships at Mattel.
So, Chris, you are in the midst of like a brand new studio. So do you want to talk about sort of what your priorities are right now?
Yeah, sure. So
setting up.
Obviously, I guess many of you in this room will be familiar with Beano. It's 80 years old next year, so there's a rich heritage, especially in the UK. Beano Studios is a new venture. It was established towards the end of last year. We're responsible for the development and production of some of the classic characters that you will know and love, but also generating new characters. So that could be new development internally, but we're also open to working with creatives like yourselves externally who might be able to bring new characters to life on our digital platform, which is beano.com, and we have an app. I think over the last 80 years, we've got to know kids really well. We do a lot of research. So we talk to kids all the time, and I think that's helped Beano's longevity throughout those decades. So we've been able to reinvent ourselves, and really the kids of today know Beano through beano.com and the app. The comic is still very much integral to what we do, but really our 3 pushes a day through the video content and the material that we release are how we interact with our audience.
What kind of holes are you looking to fill in your entertainment portfolio?
Well, I'm
What
glad you
would
asked me
interest
that,
you?
Lana.
Yes, you didn't even know it was coming. Anyway.
So you can see from that reel, obviously, there's some major brands in there: Transformers, My Little Pony, Littlest Pet Shop, and then our junior show, Transformers Rescue Bots, which is kind of like the sort of, we call it the upper preschool version of Transformers, for a sort of entry-level audience. So. And also there was a clip in there, I'm going to say it, the Stretch Armstrong, I don't know if anyone knew that, but that's an original commission we had from Netflix, which is the first time we worked with them actually. So it's a Netflix original, and it's been a really interesting thing. That's an interesting thing of like, if you remember the Stretch Armstrong toy, I mean, that's what it was. It was the grinning stretchy guy. And like from that and our internal conversations across the portfolio of all of the different divisions, we came up with an animated adventure show based very loosely on the concept of stretching. So, to your point, Christopher, you can actually look in your vault, see some IP you have, and actually completely turn it on its head and make something completely new for a new audience. So that's all good. So, what are we lacking, or where are our white spaces?
Yes.
Our white spaces are in actual preschool and upper preschool. Our preschool division, in terms of our merchandising division, is Play School. The Play School brand. So. That is something that we need to develop. I mean, as you alluded to on STEM learning and sort of the importance of early learning and getting, kids engaged and aspiring to all the great things you're working on. I think we need to focus on that. So I think, preschool and upper preschool is something that we haven't been doing. And it's not traditionally what we do in terms of entertainment. We did commission Moon and Me from Andrew and Bestport as master toy. So we're on as the master toy partner, and that will go into our Play School range. So definitely one area there. And the second area, I guess, is it's kind of that gender neutral. I mean, careful with my words here on purpose. Gender neutral, gender inclusive adventure show. What we don't want is what you're going to ask me next. Is we don't need any more action adventure shows. We kind of have that in our branding. But so I'd say upper preschool and adventure for an older audience.
And how would someone get an idea to you? What's the best route?
Just send it to me and come and talk to me.
Just you.
Yeah, who else is there? No. So the process we work is like, because we run sort of like the global distribution development team, we are the kind of first port of call because my team are out there. They're not only selling, but they're also looking at what's the zeitgeist is in the marketplace, and they're kind of boots on the ground. So the entry level is our development team in LA, of which I'm part of, and then kind of us. So if it comes through me, the process goes our development team, our senior management team, and obviously, it's not easy. We're making no bones about that. It's not easy to get through that because you have obviously brand, you have digital marketing, we have ourselves as development, distribution. It's got to work across all level, merchandise. So it really has to be a standout idea that really has legs and really has commercial value, as well as being obviously full of heart and soul, character story, all the great things that we all by now know about. Make sense?
Totally. And Christopher?
What our overall approach to content is, which is very much a sort of 360-degree approach, so that we're really creating experiences for a lot of different platforms and different categories of product and play. But that said, it doesn't mean that any property needs to tick all boxes, because I do believe very strongly that not every property or every story needs to be told on every platform. So we may launch something with a short form series on digital, or maybe it's just a publishing series through American Girl, for example, that doesn't necessarily need to be made into a feature film. Just because something doesn't tick every box in the 360-degree wheel doesn't mean it's not of interest or that are not of value. So in terms of the things we're looking for, we see a lot of, let me say what we're not looking for. We see a lot of pitches that are very much rooted in toy. That, here is an animated or live action showcase for all these products. And that's probably of the least interest. I know that the thinking behind many of these pitches is, well, you're a toy company. But it's a bit of a misnomer, because what we're really looking for are properties that will lend themselves to a particular play pattern or play experience, and that we can then realize that through toy and other product. But really what we're looking for is, not unlike what Finn said, strong characters, strong stories. And I almost stop there because if it's a strong character with a multitude of stories to tell, it can withstand the test of time. It can lend itself to application in these different areas. More and more, we're seeing a lot of trends where even the demographics are blending. So, I love that, when I started in the business, there was no such thing as transitional. The 4 to 7-year-old category didn't exist. It was preschool, kids, teen. Now there's tweens and transitional. And as they start to blend, I think we're looking not specifically for a preschool show or a kid show or a tween show, but really looking for strong, iconic characters that are going to resonate for an audience that's very different than the audience that we were growing up. So I'd say the door isn't closed on any particular genre, per se, or demographic, but the door is semi-closed on stuff that's just riddled with a lot of product.
Right, so you don't want to see a pitch populated by stuffed animals, for example.
Well, we don't do plush, but plastic, yes, no. No, truly, you wouldn't be surprised. The number of times people can barely get through the pitch with me where before they say, and here are all the toys. Yeah. And I personally am not responsible for the making of the toys. We have enormously talented people who do that. It's really about creating worlds, universes, characters that kids are going to want to spend time with. And when they want to spend time with those characters, hopefully there's lots of different ways to extend that experience by creating toys that can help them play out additional stories.
Can I just add something to that? Sorry, that's a really good point, actually, Christopher, because it's the same thing. I think when we're sitting down, people kind of feel they come with the pitch and they go, yeah, but here's the merchandise. Yes. And you go, I know a bit about toy, but as you say, there's experts in our company. So it really is about the character, the story. Has it got legs? Can you do this on multi-format, multi-platform, multi-iterations? And then let's do the merchandise and whatever that iteration looks like in the future.
Yes.
And I know that sounds like we're crazy, but it's really true. Well, and that's the step change that we're making, and I think you're making too.
Yeah, and I had a great experience last year when there was a property that Phil Malloy, who handles development out of the London office, had found. We developed it together with external partners, with an original creator from Nutley, New Jersey, a producer from LA, a studio in India. And as we're developing it, the entire time we're thinking, God, the toy team is going to kill us. There is nothing here for toy. It doesn't fit any, it doesn't tick any box whatsoever. It's a girl property. It's not white. There's no vehicles. There's no, and we showed it to them, saying, almost apologizing, saying, we love this so much. And as we showed it to them, they lit up and they were like, think of what we can do with the playset and the dollhouse and the this and the that and the da-da. And they went on and on and on with all these possibilities that I hadn't envisioned because that wasn't what the show was about. But they could see ways to extend the experience in product. And to me, that's the ideal way this should work. You should let the storytellers tell stories and have the product designers design product.
And so how should someone pitch you or get you?
Call Phil Malloy. No, I'm kidding. Anyone is certainly welcome to contact me directly. It's christopher.keenan@mattel.com. But we do have a development team based in Los Angeles. We also have people in New York and a team in London. So plenty of access. I will say, if anyone is submitting to Mattel, you do have to go through either a licensed agent or entertainment attorney or sign our submission agreement. And the submission agreement is a major document, and it is inflexible. However, I can tell you, in the time I've been there, or when I was at another place, at Warner Brothers, it really does protect both parties both ways. And if you want to submit, you have to sign it. That's just the reality of the business. We spend a lot of time going back and forth with people who keep wanting to change it, and it's just not going to change. So I just say that up front.
Okay, great. So, Chris, it's going to be the same sort of set of questions so people can get to know what you're looking for and how you would like to work with people.
I guess my job as head of development and production is to kind of open that treasure chest of characters that we have. We've got over 2,500 characters from the decades gone by. So we're currently in development on kind of my favourites from when I was a kid, to be perfectly honest, because, there have to be some perks to the job, so I get to pick which characters we're going to move onto long-form narrative with. So we're doing that, and it's quite exciting because we're moving into different genres. We're not just doing animation. That is obviously a big part of what we're doing, especially with the new Dennis and Nasher series, but we're going to move into live-action drama, comedy drama. We've got some theatre work in development as well. In terms of the digital website, we want to be on every possible touch point for kids. Our core audience is 6 to 12s. We're obviously not a toy company, so we're kind of the fraudster on this stage here. But we have to figure out how to...
consumer products ambitions.
There are obviously consumer products ambitions, especially, and I think in this day and age with broadcast fees diminishing, you have to factor that into your budget and your finance plan when you're putting these finances together, because it is just impossible to make television now based on broadcast fees alone. So we do actually work very closely with my colleagues across all areas of the business. So we are thinking about commercial products and licensing, and harking back to my hit days about play patterns and how we feed that into the narratives that we're developing. So there's that aspect, but also we talk to kids all the time. You'll have seen on the clip there that there's a section called Trend Spotters. We have a research team that regularly talk to our trend spotting panel, and we're quite fortunate because they're able to talk to us about trends. So, we were on the case with fidget spinners before it really exploded. And slime, we were there, we were doing videos, we were getting them on beano.com and YouTube and the app. So I guess our sensibility is topical. We are topical, and we're able to react. What we're looking for in terms of character, I guess we're not looking for menaces or minxes or dodgers. We've got those, but we are looking for characters that will resonate, certainly with our audience of 6 to 12. But if you think about the Beano's longevity, it's worked with parents and grandparents. There's a great affinity for Beano characters with grandparents and parents. The Beano Annual is it's the best-selling annual every Christmas, to be perfectly honest. And the comic itself is still one of the most loved comics in the UK. So there's great affection for our characters. If you come up with a character that you think has Beano awesomeness, and it's so Beano, then by all means get in touch with us. You can send it in to me if you like, or anyone from the development team. It's chris.rose@beano.com.
Okay.
And actually, Chris just said something that I think is an excellent point, which is when you talked about the Beano archives and that there is an element of subjectivity to this. So, and you sort of joked that you pick your favorites and those are the ones you're going to develop. But I think that's really crucial because, especially when you're looking at new properties, one of the things that we look for is the pitcher's passion and excitement about that character. It's not so much about looking, what is it that we need, and so you're going to pull something out of your arsenal to pitch to us. It's what's the thing that you just have to make, the story you have to tell. That's what we're looking for, is that excitement and passion, because that's the ones that we're going to respond to best.
Great. So we actually have a great example of an original independent idea that was recently transformed into a toy and entertainment brand for Hasbro. So Finn's going to tell us more about this. It's a brand new girls' gaming property called Hanazuki, if you haven't heard of it. I first saw this concept pitched at Cinekid, the Cinekid Film Festival in Amsterdam in 2010. So it's been a while. And I'd like to get Finn to tell us how, Hasbro took it from the germ of an idea and turned it into a brand that is traveling globally. Sure. So do you want to roll the clip now?
I'll talk briefly before it, then we'll roll the clip,
okay.
and I'll come back for more.
Sure.
So you saw it in 2010. So actually, this was created by two Dutch artists called Nico Stumpo, Dutch guy, and his partner Hanneke, and they created it in 2005.
Okay.
It only takes 12 years. So it started in 2005, and they're art directors, and they're in Amsterdam. And they started the Hanazuki Toy Company, and they were actually going to create this as a brand. They had an image of Hanazuki, not unlike how she's turned out today, which is good. But first of all, it was a toy and an art directive, and they're kind of like a character-based corporate art house. Really creative, really funky.
Yes,
so
super graphic.
Super graphic, yeah. It was a graphic look. So from 2005 to 2010, they played around with that. then we got attention from it. We really liked the look and the style of it, and we were looking for something. Our brand teams were looking for something that was a lifestyle brand at the time. So it was like a lifestyle brand. So by 2010, I think when you saw it, it was it looked like a cool graphic thing you'd have on a T-shirt. So the brand team kind of came to us once we'd started the studio and said, look, we've got this thing, we're going to buy it. So we actually bought the Hanazuki brand off them, and they were still collaborative with us, really important. So they were part of the team. And it kind of evolved into this lifestyle clothing brand. We went down that route. We were like, it would be such a shame if this character just became an icon on a T-shirt, and it was going really indie. It was going like a little bit sort of goth at one point, which was quite good. And then we sat around as development and distribution. We said, look, there's really something in this character. There's something really that resonates with her, and she's not only is she an iconic brand to look at, but let's create the world of Hanazuki. I mean, I won't bore you with the iterations we went through, but basically we gave her a voice and a point of view. And that voice and the point of view is that she is the equivalent of a 12-year-old Earth girl, but she's not from our world. And the kind of message of the show, and I'll talk more when we've seen the clip, is it's all about being yourself, being authentic, and it's okay to be moody. I'll stop there, roll the clip. So that's probably totally confused you. Okay, here's the basic story, bear with me. So Hanazuki is a moonflower, and her job in the galaxy is to protect her moon. And there are lots of different moons in this universe, and everyone lives on a different moon, and they all have to protect their moon from the big bad. And the big bad is this black cloud. It sounds really dark, doesn't it, Christopher? Is this dark cloud that comes to attack your moon and sort of take it over so that nothing grows. So Hanazuki is kind of born into this moon, and she has to figure out what her role in the universe is, and she realizes that her role is to protect her moon, and there are other people that live on other moons. Those characters you saw are called the Hemkas, and the Hemkas represent her different moods. So you see the little hoodie pajama character, that's called Little Dreamer, and Little Dreamer will come along and deliver a treasure to Hanazuki, and she has to figure out what to do with this treasure, and through various adventures and various moods and the various sort of exploits and things that happen, there will be something that plants in the ground. So you'll have, if she's angry because the Hemkas are mucking around and they're not doing what they're told, Red Hemka will sort of drop a treasure, and then the treasure tree will grow. And that will be, if you grow treasure trees, you keep the big bad at bay. So it's like kind of warding off global warming. So if you look at that, I mean, it's pretty damn mad, and conceptually it's like really high concept, but the fact that we're doing a show like this was, to your point, Christopher, and I think what we're saying today is that was just a really great idea, and we saw the potential in that for lifestyle branding, consumer products, maybe. But it all started with this story of Hanazuki on her moon, cute Hemkas. There's lots of really interesting characters.
So there was no immediate toy.
There was absolutely no talk of anything to do with toy, and in fact, we pushed it out. The brand team, bless them, were like, right, well, we're going to do this plush, and then we're like, no, you're not. So we started from story, and it's a really important message that we're giving out. So we started from her as the character. It's grown from there. Obviously now we do have a plush line from the Hemkas, and we do have the treasures, and there's there's wearable tech. But it's like, it was, I hate to say gender imbalancing, but obviously it's focused on girls. I mean, you can't really get away from that. We are gender inclusive, everything we do, but there's this wearable tech, and you can collect the little Hemka treasures, and if you put them into your watch, it will decide what your mood is. Oh. So it's all about empowering girls. It's okay to be moody. It's okay to be happy one day. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel really feisty. It's okay to be brave. So we've got that kind of that spirit in the show, but it is a way to kind of like get kids to interact with that and kind of collect
so
the
like
things.
A high-tech mood ring.
It's a high-tech mood ring. There you go.
If anybody remembers mood rings.
So we've been on a big journey with that. I mean, we did place a lot of different bets on this. It was almost like, how many bets we're going to place? Not as many as Joey Barton, obviously. But, we definitely kind of took that whole range of what really is the essence of Hanazuki. So we also took another step we launched it on YouTube, heavens above. So we sort of thought that there was a core audience there that was kind of obviously using YouTube more, there's a huge prevalence of YouTube. And we just took a bold step and said, you know what? We're going to seed this in. It's not a massive program. It's not a massive master toy license. It's not stocking the shelves of Walmart with Transformers. So
Right.
we just thought, let's take a different approach for that as well. So we launched the first, we did 9/11 minutors. We did 3 sets of 9/11 minutors, and we launched them all on the first moons of every month. It was quite cute. So they're up on YouTube now, so you can go and watch them all and find out what happens to Hanazuki and her friends on her Moonflower. And then we're looking at season 2. We've commissioned season 2, and we're kind of just gathering all of the intel and the data and looking at who's watching and when. And the merchandise is coming in, I think, August, which is another significant factor, because normally we'd go straight out there. But we've let this ride from January, February, and we're kind of introducing merch in August.
Right. So it's sort of a very select.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting thing to do. And as I say, I think it's surprising for us to do something like that. So I think it's really encouraging. It's good.
No,
It's been
I
enjoyable.
was surprised when I saw it on the Hasbro booth at Licensing Show in 2016, 15. I can't remember which one. But because to date, you really hadn't done anything that was quite so
different
or out there, yeah.
And the 12 years was kind of a joke. Obviously, everyone knows that, brands take a long time to develop. When we actually got our hands on it in 2012, we took those 3 or 4 years to decide what it was. When we actually got going, it was 2.5 years in development to production. So,
Right.
there you go.
Okay.
That's Hanazuki.
Great. And Christopher, you've said that Mattel Creations doesn't yet have a similar example of an indie that you've picked up and moved into the brand space. But maybe you can walk us through how you've built one of your own brands through entertainment. And I think we're going to look at the Enchantimals. So do you want to talk a bit about that first and then show
let me just set up the what you're going to see. So to Lana's point, we because of confidentiality, I couldn't bring some of the development I wanted to share because it is all original development from creators outside of the toy space. But this was an example of a very traditional trajectory in that this was a product line that was developed by our girls' toy team, and they are divided by boys and girls within the toy box because of the way retail partners are set up and the aisles for toys. But this was very specifically a response to looking for what would be the next equivalent to a Monster High or Never After High, which would be a whole sort of world for girls to explore and a multitude of characters to get to know. And there was a bunch of different ideas batted around, but this was one that rose to the top that was internally generated, and there was no content planned whatsoever. And I want to run what is now the commercial, but at the time when I saw it, it was just some product prototypes. And then I want to explain sort of where we went from there. So this is just the product itself. This is a commercial that's about to launch. So Enchantimals were these dolls that were created to be half animal, half girl that lived in an enchanted forest. They lived with their animal, what we were calling beastie besties, their little animal
so this
friends.
is similarly trippy.
Yes, it's similar. Well, actually, Hanazuki makes this look really sane. So, but what was interesting about this is working at Mattel or any of the other larger toy companies, generally what happens is the brand or toy groups come to the content groups and say, we're launching this, we need content to support it, what can you do? And in this case, they weren't asking that at all. They were going through their product line, and we, the content group, saw this, and we're like, oh my gosh, we could so bring these characters to life. There's so many stories to tell with them. I mean, we started riffing on what we were seeing in the product in a way that they hadn't really anticipated from the toy group. So we sort of volunteered to do content and are in production now on a 60-minute special and in talks about developing a series because it was this opportunity to bring female characters to life in a way we hadn't seen before, where they were going to be embodying these sort of animal attributes, whether it was stealth in the forest or an incredible sense of smell or whatever it may have been, depending on the animal they were paired with. But it was also a great opportunity to do comedy for girls by imbuing their animal besties with whatever the girls' personalities were. So it just seemed like a really, really ripe opportunity to do something for girls that wasn't fashion-based, that wasn't jewelry-based, that it was literally about the relationships within the community there and with their animal best friend, all rooted around this notion notion of compassion and empathy and caring for all living things. So what I'm going to show you is just a very quick sort of sizzle that we used as we were in production, just to give you a glimpse of the style, which we're using Flash and doing it with Kickstart out of Vancouver.
And Christopher, I hate to cut this a bit short.
Yep.
But this is going much more quickly than I had realized, and I'm sure all of you too. I just wanted to sort of skip ahead to sort of look at, how you're sort of working with the independent community. At what stage do you want to see an idea? Does there have to be like a Bible, an animatic? Could it be a sketch or a one-liner? And say you did pick, like I had a show idea and you picked it up. What kind of deal models do you look at? Do you look at full ownership and buy out the creator, or are co-productions a possibility? How does that work for all of you? Who wants to go first?
We haven't done it yet, but I'm very excited about the opportunity to do it. I guess have a look at beano.com, look at the kind of content that is being produced. If you think you can do something with some of our existing characters, get in touch. There might be an opportunity there if if you're a company and you have similar brand values to our own, then maybe there's something that we can do to collaborate there. If you think there's a mashup or something of some of our existing characters, we'd be open to doing something like that. But similarly, if you think, I've got an idea for a new tune, I think it'd look great on TV, it has Beano values, it would then resonate well with the comic publication, then absolutely we're open to listening to you. But I think come in early with that idea rather than do lots of work. It's quite expensive to do all that work.
And get rejected or not. But if you did pick it up, like, do you look at co-ownership?
I guess that's to be explored. I haven't gone down for that avenue yet. We'd probably option it in the first instance and do a development deal, and then I'd have to discuss further.
Of course. Christopher?
Similarly, I think we would want to see things as early as possible. There's no right answer to that. I guess whatever stage you feel makes the most sense to communicate your idea most effectively. Again, earlier tends to be better because that's why they call it development. We'll probably shape it together. As far as like business relationships or arrangements go, there isn't really a set template for the way Mattel does deals with creators. It varies creator to creator based on a multitude of different variables. But the goal, at least from the content standpoint, is always to continue to work with the creator. We do negotiate property rights separate from services. So almost every creator I know comes in and wants to make a deal that's to attach me as the producer, attach me as the creator. And that's just not something we're going to do when we're negotiating the actual intellectual property rights. But concurrently, we can do a separate services agreement for development or production. But generally, we want to work with the person. The project can change shape, but the person is what we're investing in.
Finn?
Exactly. Thanks.
What he said.
Yeah, what he said. I mean, obviously, early as possible, some kind of fleshed out concept. Character, you want to know where you're going with what the show is in your head. It's about you guys as the creators, exactly, and then we'll shape it and do development. So very similar to what Christopher said. In terms of how we work, we will attach the creator to the project for sure. In terms of how we work with them, they'll get a percentage of
Right.
the spoils, shall we say. But traditionally Hasbro has been a 100% ownership of IP thing, and it gets challenging. We all know that. So
we should just be clear, Mattel deals are much better than Hasbro deals. In case there's...
He's really awkward after 6. No, joking. We're great mates, actually. It's quite funny. It's good. The deals are, it's difficult to put a deal together. We're gonna lie. But if you've got a really great property, then we will entertain you and we'll make sure the creator comes along for the show. Like the guys in the Hanazuki model, they're still part of it.
Right.
They sold their company to us, but they're still with us.
Right.
Which is great.
They're still actively involved.
Yeah, they're still actively involved, which is
yeah.
important. So then you're getting into deal points and percentages and
I don't expect everybody to divulge.
I'm not telling you what it is, but there's all that good business stuff to come.
Great. The red light is flashing.
Oh,
so
God.
I think maybe we have time for one question. or are you going to yank me off now? Is there a question? Anyone? Oh, there's a question right up front.
Filippo.
So, I could just be really loud. Thank you. Hi. So I met Ben Gray at DC Thompson back in 2013, and I had some really interesting conversations in your beautiful office in Fleet Street. That was really early when our creation was a mess of wires. But how do you're all very big companies. Like, how quickly do you move deals through? And are you aware that sometimes, when you deal with us, it's different because we're a toy startup, we're not just a property creator, but maybe you're dealing with companies and people, an idea who have a short shelf life before they've got to drop what they're doing and, going back to their job. It wasn't the case for us, thank God. But how sensitive are you to working with the timings of small creators that cannot move at the pace and the slowness of a big corporate giant? How nimble are you when you make deals and talk to small creators?
That's a good question.
I would say that we are very agile. I've only been there 8 weeks myself, and don't forget, Beano Studios is a new entity, and certainly we've moved things on rapidly in the time I've been there. So I would say yes. Beano Studios itself is not a massive corporate entity.
I would say it really can vary because sometimes the complexity or the sort of slowness of at least Mattel's moving an agreement through the process often has to do with the creator. So an offer is made, and then there's a lot of back and forth in terms of fine deal points that can really delay things. We also are very sensitive to the fact that whether we're dealing with an individual or another corporation, we've done deals in record time. And while we're an enormous corporation, there are generally 3 people who touch the deal. So it can be, as quick as a phone call, you can go through and come to agreement on things. It may take a little longer to get it papered, but in terms of actually making a deal, it can be in record time. There's also deals that I've been employed by Mattel or HIT for now 3.5 years, and they still haven't closed. So it really runs the gamut in terms of the participation on both parts.
Yeah. It depends what the brand. It depends what the brand is like. Or your idea, because we're addressing it, but we traditionally haven't been quick. It's like the old tanker moving slowly, turning a tanker. But to that end, like for example, your business, we have like an innovation lab. Very cool name, isn't it? So we have an innovation lab, and that's where you'd go first. We have like touch points, which is us in terms of development and story and the long tail of the show, the entertainment and play part of the company. We have an innovation lab, and those are all really fast track now. We're actually getting to a point where if we see something we like it, we can push it up to really senior management pretty quickly. So we're getting much better at doing it, but we totally are sensitive to the fact that we seem like a massive corporation, very matrixed organization, but it depends what it is, and it depends what the zeitgeist is,
And how quickly you have to move.
Yeah, we saw something last year, and there was like a white space in a certain genre that the Hasbro brand teams are really into, and we got something to deal done in like 6 weeks, and we're doing it. So it's just horses for courses, and
Okay. Well, great. I'd like to thank all of our panelists today. Thanks very much, gentlemen.